Hello, my friends. Welcome. Today is the last day of RPGaDay. Yes, it's the 31st day, 31st topic, and there's always usually a little bit of a sadness at something ending, going away. And I know that in another 11 months, we'll be doing this again. Fresh set of questions, if Autocratic still feels like doing it, and I hope he does. I don't know if there were as many people this year who were doing RPGaDay, but it would be a pity if it stops. But today's question is, what is a game or a gamer that you miss? Now, obviously, there's going to be some looking back, and kind of a bummer of a topic, really. Games, however, I can heartily say that there's almost no game that I miss, because I still have almost everything I've ever played. I currently have. I went back and tracked the board games of my youth. I've got most of them. The ones that I don't are ones I generally didn't miss all that much. I mean, I may have played Anti-Monopoly a couple of times, but I wasn't into macroeconomics back then, so... and I could have picked that up a couple of times at several thrift stores too, so no big deal. As far as role-playing games go, I have every role-playing game I've ever played, except for one or two, games at cons. And even most of those I still have. I may not have Elves, which is kind of a raunchy game. But I don't know that I would ever run it anyhow, so I don't really miss it that terribly. Almost everything else that I've ever played, I have. Not just because I play games that I own only, it's because I play a game, and if I really like it, I get that game. So my library is got a lot of good memories to it of games that I have actually taken a whack at. Now, gamers, on the other hand, that's a different story, and that's something I can talk about. First of all, my very first game group that I had, a real game group centered around my game, was back in the seminary when I was a sophomore in high school. The one year that I went to a seminary before I got kicked out. I'm not going to go into those details right now. But out of those people, I still play with one of them. He's my best friend, and he's still at my table. The rest of them, I mean, we were high schoolers. I'm sure they've changed. They've gotten married, probably have kids, probably live different life paths. And if I got in touch with them, we probably have drifted into completely different areas. I think almost certainly I've doubled down on this hobby far more than any of them have. Probably something they just gave up at some point. Don't know, but it's likely. So out of those folks, yeah, they were fine people to play with. In high school, I had a group from the school that I ended up graduating from. I hope they are well. I hope things go well for them. But considering I didn't really know them outside of the game for the most part, got nothing there. It's not until I got to college. And when I got to college, I fell in with a group. They already existed. They invited me in, and I joined the group, and I stayed with them throughout all of college. 4 years, which is about as long as the group held together. The group expanded a few times, adding more and more people, including my best friend joined that group. But by and large, the group got too big. It got so big that we had 2 tables running in the same basement at the same time. Too much. Not all of them were really all that committed to the game. Some of it was just a social thing to hang out with the rest of us, and that was fine. There were several people, though, that I played with that I do miss. My friend Mick, for instance, who stood up at my wedding for me. A really nice guy to this day. If I ever see him, I handshake, how you doing, backslap. I could reminisce over a beer or something would be fine. Still a fantastic guy. Our paths have kind of drifted apart. He's doing his own thing, but, he's still a guy that I would love to have at my table if I had a chance to reform a new group around some of my old friends. He'd be one I'd ask, I like that. My friend Bob, who owns the local hobby shop, Played with him a few times. He was good. I like him outside of the hobby shop. And, did not have a bad time when he was a part of the group. Mike, who was our first, was kind of like the forever game master, although he did sometimes play with us. Kind of an exacting guy. He did kind of demand a lot of detail and attention. His worlds were incredibly elaborate. He was also an excellent person to have in a group, although he's, again, mostly used to running games. Still a nice enough guy that I wouldn't mind having. Whenever I see him, I still chat with him from time to time, although rarely. Again, my best friend still plays at my table. Also, the person whose basement we used to play in still plays in one of my groups. So I haven't lost track of him, and which is cool. So we've been playing together since '92. It's a pretty good stretch, I'd say. Let's see. Who else from back then? Oh, I kind of got to know a whole clan of my friends, including Mike and Steve, and we had a lot of fun playing together. If you know our group, then you know who they are. I really do kind of regret falling out of touch with them because they really did help me when I was trying to figure things out in my life through college, especially how to let go and how to be responsible when I was, getting into some high-heeled entertainment. And they took care of me. They stopped me from making any really bad and stupid mistakes and learning how to be responsible at a time in my life when responsibility wasn't exactly the first thing on my mind. So I owe them a tremendous amount, and I would love to play with those guys again. They were fantastic, and I really respect them. They were the adults in the room, although friend Mike would laugh to hear that. But realistically, yeah, they had a great perspective on life that I really struggled to replicate. And even though we have our own styles, and they're great guys that I would love to play with again. The drop of a hat, I would, no problem. There were a number of hangers-on in that group, but few of them are ones that I would really love to play with again. One, I would, was kind of the quiet thinker within our group. His name was Dave. Nice guy, again, quiet, unassuming, but he could tell some fantastic character stories. He made characters you wanted to root for, even if they were sometimes in really rough positions, but not so great places. He could be very compelling as a player and would be good to play with again at the drop of a hat. If I'm missing anybody from that group who should be on this list, I'm sorry. These are the major ones. There's a host of dozens of other people I wouldn't mind playing with from the past. And then we come to my last gaming group that played for a decade here in this basement until things went sour. Maybe not even a decade, but it was a good 8 years. The group broke up. I was mostly to blame for it, so I will take responsibility for that. But I do regret not playing with them anymore. For the most part, two of them specifically. My old roommate Roger was a great guy. Still talk to him to this day. A lot about gaming too, because he was a ferocious gamer. Loved playing as much as he could. Now he's a dad with kids, so he doesn't get to play as much as he wishes he could anymore, I'm sure. Kind of in the same boat as me. There's just not enough time to play all the games we'd love to. But I do miss him. I miss playing with him from time to time. And also Larry, another guy who, good gamer, good imagination, not afraid to take up the burden of running games these days. I'm happy to hear about. Every time I think of him, the major thing I think is he was so much of a fan of Star Trek, but that rarely came into our games. Just was a part of his personality. He a lot of times would be, make a reference or something to Star Trek, and we'd be like, oh, okay, that's Larry. But no, he's a good, dependable guy. Kind of had a dice curse similar to some of our players now, but he was often good for whatever, and that's really cool. There were other people in that group too. Many of them were kind of conflicted, touch and go, brought good things, but also brought distractions. Doesn't mean I don't like them, doesn't mean I don't, still have some nostalgia for our times together, but, these are the people that I would bring together in a group if I could. I'm afraid those bridges are burned, and that probably isn't likely to ever happen with Roger and Larry, but if they ever see this video, I hope they know that I think about them from time to time, and I definitely would love the chance to play with them again. Just, maybe if someday they can, see fit to move past what happened back in the day, and maybe we can get together for a game or two. That would be fantastic. And that's really it. A lot of other ones that have played with me, like, for example, I was really happy when another friend of mine, Toby, came and entered our sphere and played for a while, but he burned those bridges as soon as when he left. We weren't sorry to see him go. And that's a shame, but people change and groups change, and that can happen. But this is kind of an all-encompassing video over all the different parts of my life, and good and bad. And I do miss some of the people that I played with, absolutely. So, that's my answer to this question. If you want to use the comments as your memorial to somebody that you missed, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, feels like it's kind of sucked the wind out of my sails right now. But that's often how I feel at the end of RPGaDay. Like I've said everything. I've bared my soul. I've talked in depth on topics that maybe I'm not the best at, but tried to be as helpful as possible. So, I hope that we can consider this RPGaDay 2024 a success in general. And if I've been entertaining, if you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. I'll keep making more videos. It's not all about RPGaDay, but very soon we'll be having some Dungeon Tutor videos talking about gaming again in specific topics, and being even more useful with my experience and perspective. So, that's my hope. And my hope is to see you again. And we'll be making more videos, so hopefully, until that time, that next video, and now though, I hope that you, yes, you, get a chance to roll some dice, to play some games, to have some fun, but stay safe out there, my friends. Until that next time, farewell.